Like, do you want to talk about one at a time?
And go.
Welcome to episode 21 of Trek Live. Uh, Today we're going to be boosting the confinement beam and deactivating the safety protocols as we're talking about transporters and holodecks. Um, Joining me as always is my co-host Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Pretty good. Glad to be here. Excited to talk some transporters and holodeck.
Yeah, me too. Morning, Adam. Thanks for
Morning,
coming.
Adam. Thanks for dropping by.
Uh, so our format today is going to be kind of loose, relaxed. We're going to be talking about which one of these things we'd prefer to have access to, like in our daily lives. Uh, that's kind of how we framed this question, or we framed it as a question when we announced this topic. But I think we're going to dive a little deeper into, pluses and minuses for both, things we like, things we maybe a little afraid of. So definitely chime in the chat if you're here. Let us know what you think. If you have a choice between the two, and why, more importantly. And looking forward to diving into this. Any thoughts, Dan? Just generally before we really kick it off.
Generally, I think it was an easy decision for me, but at the same time, both have merits.
Yeah.
So I could go either way, and that's what makes this topic so great because I think both are correct answers. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I think the correct answer is both.
Yeah.
we would ideally like to have both.
Yeah.
But there are challenges to both, and I think we're going to get into that. And yeah, it was definitely a tough call for me. I actually had a difficult time. I went back and forth for a while, and even this morning I thought about changing. But I'm sticking with it. I know what my choice is, but I think before we get into that, like we always do, I know you are diving deep into Enterprise Season 3. So where are you in that? How do you feel about it so far?
I just finished. Let me check. I just want to get the episode number correct before
Okay.
So I just finished North Star, which is episode 9 of season 3.
Okay.
So I finished almost 10 episodes. I'm loving season 3 so far. I forgot how great it is. But after the live stream last Sunday when we played some Star Trek Online, I watched like 6 episodes because I was just like, one more, one more. And I think that's one thing that, season 3 does really well is like how they end their episodes is like you want to keep continuing and keep watching. So that's one thing I noticed, kind of a difference between season 2 and season 3 is like ending of the episodes are like kind of cliffhanger-ish. It leaves you wanting more, which is awesome. So
yeah, very serialized for sure. Do you have a favorite episode so far from the season? Like
favorite episode? They all are kind of. There was only a few that were like, I didn't really enjoy that. I'll just tell you right now, I enjoy a lot. It's hard to pick a favorite. I'd rather pick one that I'm not a fan of.
It's just as interesting, if
Yeah.
not more.
So Extinction is probably my least favorite episode in that run.
Can't blame me there.
So, yeah, but there's like tons and tons of great episodes that. I mean, even North Star, for example, like it's not, I don't know, the greatest episode, but it's really fun and
it's fun.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. So, yeah,
it's a high up. That episode is high up there on Trek ranks.
Yeah.
For Enterprise Expert, he loves that episode. So you're not alone. It has its big fans. It's kind of similar to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. It's kind of like an Enterprise holodeck episode, sort of. They don't have a holodeck, so they can't do these kinds of things. But it would fit right in like TNG or Voyager. You just change the window dressing a little bit, and instead of finding a planet with captured humans from hundreds of years ago, it's a holodeck program, and it works just as well. I think, and yeah, it's definitely fun, especially for Enterprise. Enterprise is typically, especially later on, is a pretty serious show. Like, it doesn't have the levity and the humor that like Voyager has kind of strung through it, and TOS and Deep Space Nine have. It tends to be more serious. So when you get an episode that kind of breathes a little bit and injects a little humor into it,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of nice. And the actors definitely have the goods for it. I think they're funny when they get the chance to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got some really cool imagery in it. I love the cinematography. I love the shot of uh, like this panning shot of the town with the shuttle coming down.
Oh yeah.
It's just really cool,
Mm-hmm.
really neat, iconic imagery, like Star Trek imagery. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a good score. It's a fun episode. I'm glad you
Mm-hmm.
like that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Another episode I'd like to highlight is Twilight.
yeah,
Um, that I bring that up because it's kind of Voyager-esque, and
certainly is.
you guys know that I'm definitely a huge fan of Voyager. But what I mean by Voyager-esque is um, kind of spoilers if you haven't seen it, but it kind of puts a reset button at the end of this whole fiasco with Archer and T'Pol. Um, so it's definitely an interesting episode, and when I watched it, I was like, this is remnants of Voyager for sure. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of echoes of Year of Hell. Um, it's this. What I like about it, the reason I have it really high on my list, is I think it's kind of necessary for the arc of season 3 to have. What it really does to me is it establishes the stakes. Like you get to see how bad it would be if they don't succeed. Um, like it's not even just going to stop with Earth. These guys are going to try to exterminate the species. Like they're going
Mm-hmm.
to keep going beyond Earth.
Yeah.
As disastrous and catastrophic as losing Earth would be, it's going to be even worse than
Mm-hmm.
that. And seeing the crew, those who have survived, like beaten down and miserable and uh, joyless, lifeless, just running all the time. I don't know. My memory of seeing it for the first time was that was the episode that I kind of realized how much I love the characters. Like I feel like that's the episode that I kind of accepted those characters as like part of my family of Star Trek characters that I love from all the
Mm-hmm.
other shows because seeing them that way and seeing them get picked off and seeing them die made me realize, man, I really do love these guys. Like I've totally bought in at this point, like first
Mm-hmm.
time around with the show. So I'm pretty big on it, but I totally do agree that it's very much like Year of Hell, just kind of transplanted to Enterprise. And I think if it wasn't taking place in the middle of this bigger arc, and it wasn't setting the ground rules and setting the stakes for the Xindi conflict, I'd have more of an issue with it. But I think it achieves something that is ultimately necessary for the success of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I'm a fan, and I'm a sucker for as much as it kind of stops right there and they kind of go a different direction with it. But I kind of like the T'Pol and Archer dynamic in that episode.
Whoa.
I kind of do,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't generally like the idea of them together. I think that's kind of, I think under normal circumstances, it's kind of the predictable way to go, and the way that they built to it, like in A Night in Sick Bay and
Mm-hmm.
other little hints in the first couple of seasons. I'm not a fan of the pairing as a whole, but the way that it plays out in this, I think, is kind of credible and kind of. I just find it believable that T'Pol would. I buy T'Pol's loyalty to Archer, so I buy her desire to stick with him
Yeah.
in a case like this, and
Mm-hmm.
I see it more along those lines than I see it as like pure romance. Like I think the idea of them really being romantically involved through this situation is kind of creepy. Like
Mm-hmm.
I choose not to see it that way since you can't remember anything. It kind of feels dirty in a
Yeah.
sense. Um, but if it's the way that I see it, which is like just pure loyalty and just sticking with him and kind of dedicating her life to being with him and making sure he's pointed in the right direction, um, I kind of love that. I love that T'Pol went that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of that one. But being the Voyager lover that you are, coming from Voyager, I get the man. I've kind of seen this before.
Yeah.
It's very familiar in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thrilled to hear that you're really liking season 3. That's reassuring because I really do feel, and I've said this before on the stream, that if Enterprise had seasons 5, 6, and 7 and they were of the same quality that 3 and 4 were. I think we talk about Enterprise the same way we talk about the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. Like, it would be in that breath. I don't, like, you can rank them however you want to rank them, but I think if you, and on the flip side of that, like I always say, if you cut any of those 3 shows off after their 4th season, I think they look a lot like Enterprise, with kind of weak first 2 seasons and really good 3rd and 4th seasons, and kind of cut off before it really established its voice in its best run.
Yeah.
So hearing you say that, hearing that you're really enjoying it, kind of reaffirms my opinion that I think it really does pick up steam, and really does become a really good show around this point. And I think the best is yet to come. I think season 3 just gets stronger. I think the last half of it is pretty consistently great. So can't wait to hear what you think as you keep going.
Yeah.
Yep. But we can talk about it. I can talk about Enterprise all day. We're not going to do that. we have other things to discuss.
Yeah.
But like for me, I watched just to piggyback off you briefly, because there's not a whole lot to talk about here, but I watched the back half of season 6 of Voyager over last weekend. It's kind of a mixed bag. There's some good stuff. There's some not so good stuff. I think Spirit Folk is a big thumbs down. Not a fan at all. A holodeck episode that I might throw in here today. I really like Good Shepherd. I know you're a fan of that one.
Yeah.
From back half of season 6. I think Kate Mulgrew's awesome in that. Janeway's great. I wish Voyager would have done more of that. I wish Voyager maybe would have done that earlier in the run. But it's a really good episode. I like Icheb. He's in it now. I think he's kind of a neat wrinkle, different kind of character. Lifeline's good. Not a fan of Fury. Tess's comeback.
Oh yeah.
I think that's kind of weak, unnecessary. Although I saw Ian, and I hope Ian stops by today. Ian, like he always does on Twitter, he responds to an episode that I don't like, and inevitably he loves it. And the way he frames his defense of it makes me like reconsider everything. He talked about people who leave your life and come back completely different and almost unrecognizable, which does happen in life. It really, like people you work with, people that you're friends with in high school, you come back and you meet them again 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, and it's like a totally different person. And that's kind of what he says they were going for with Kes. And I get it. I get where he's coming from, but no, not for me. I didn't feel the need to bring Kes back at all, and to bring her back in that way, I think I don't think it was necessary. And I'm not a fan of the time travel stuff, and just feels familiar. It feels like Relativity, which is a much better episode, kind of going back to the beginning and all that stuff. So definitely not a fan of that one, but I'm knocking on the door of being done. I have 1 season left, and then I have the 3 Kelvin timeline movies and Nemesis. So I'm looking to be done this in a couple of weeks, and then I don't know what I'm going to do other than be ready for Discovery. So
yeah,
I'm just about done this whole thing.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking more about Voyager in the next couple of weeks as I wrap it up. So,
which I'm super excited for that episode. So you guys definitely have to tune in.
Yes, that's going to be a good one. I'm sure we'll dive deep, and I have lots that I want to hit on. We've talked about a lot of stuff off air, just between Dan and I kind of want to hit a lot of those notes that we've hit on with each other, and go beyond and just dive really deep into the show. And I think we're both going to pretty aggressively defend the show. I know there are people who are not big Voyager fans out there, but I am not among them. I love Voyager, and every time I go back to it, every time I rewatch it, I find myself liking it more for its strengths and for the things that it does well, which there are plenty of. It's not a perfect show. I don't think any of the shows are perfect. They all have things that could have been done better. Voyager's no different, but it's ultimately, as a whole, I think a really good, successful show. So, yeah, looking forward to doing that in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout. We'll be advertising that one because we want people to participate in that.
Yeah.
Sure. So I guess we should dive in to this topic of the week. I think we're going to start off by kind of just laying it out there and telling everybody, what our choice would be if we had to pick one, and then we'll kind of defend that choice and talk about you know, why this, why not that, kind of go into more detail from there. So, Dan, what would you want to have if you could have
So if I could have
fairly regular access to one or the
either
other?
of these, regular access, potentially one near me or one in my house or whatever, um, I would have the transporter. I am team transporter all the way. I love the idea of um, kind of go anywhere, see anyone, in the blink of an eye. Yeah, so I'm just kind of a fan of going out there and experiencing things, um, and stuff like that instead of like going into the holodeck where it's kind of um, I mean we'll talk about this, but it's like a
Mm-hmm.
simulation kind of, and so I'm all
Yeah.
all for kind of all for the transporter. Um, and it has I don't know. I have a lot of reasons why. I think the transporter it has the potential to be a very useful tool in a lot of the
Sure.
different fields. It can save lives. Someone has an accident and they don't have time to take like an ambulance or something. It's just like so
Mm-hmm.
quick. You're already there on the
Yeah.
battlefield. I don't know. Hopefully, um, yeah, and it could also be used as like transporting cargo even. So I mean, it
Sure.
could just change some industries and um, I don't know, change how we travel and all that stuff. So I think it definitely has some um, potential that kind of set me over the edge because over holodeck.
Yeah. I mean, no more shipping fees would be nice, right?
Yeah,
Never have to pay shipping again,
yeah.
probably. Uh,
If you're just
yeah.
on yeah, if you're just on Amazon, you click transport and then
Yeah.
it's just
Here
right
it
on
is.
your desk. Yeah,
Yeah. Can't beat that. I mean,
yeah.
that the transporter has great merit, and I really thought about changing today to the transporter because my choice is the holodeck. Um, although with a caveat, I don't think I could personally handle, and I don't think most people could personally handle like a holodeck in their house. Um, I think a holodeck could be incredibly useful, and would be very cool to have if it wasn't like incredibly readily available.
Hmm.
um, I guess the way that I would envision it being, at least initially available to us, would be something like a movie theater, something like an entertainment center, like something you'd have to go to do.
You have to go to
And
courts
you'd,
to
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, yes. Um, and this all gets into why I struggled with this so much, and even right now I'm struggling with it. Hearing what you're saying makes me want to go to the transporter because it makes a lot of sense. It is more practically useful. Uh, it is more. It would save lives. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would, in all kinds of ways that I'm gonna kind of hit on. I guess the thing that would sway me 100% towards the transporter would be I would have to be
The
completely
safety.
yes.
Yes. That's
Correct.
the
Yes.
only hang up and the only caveat that the transporter has is the safety because
Yes. I want to be guaranteed that it's going to be safe. I want to be guaranteed that I want to have a total understanding of how it works as far as like this age old conversation about every time somebody beams, are you killing that person and just kind of creating a new version of that person that has the same everything? Like I would have to wrap my head around that. I have a lot of Dr. McCoy in me, and I would struggle, I think, with this whole idea. I'd be the guy who would kind of prefer to take the shuttlecraft, I think.
yeah.
But for the purposes that you kind of hit on, in emergency situations, in transporting cargo, getting from things from here to there, uh, you know, and sure, the ability to go from, I live in Pennsylvania, you live in Oregon. I would
Hmm.
love to be able to beam to your house and have a beer with you on a Friday night.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way without that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be great. And there's all kinds of things like that would be great.
Hmm.
It would give great access to the world, and you could go see things, and it would open up all kinds of things.
Hmm.
And I'm totally conscious of that, and I would love to have it. Like I said at the beginning, and like you said too, the real answer is both. We want to have both these things.
Yeah.
But the reason I picked the holodeck, I'm really torn by this, but you know, the ability to experience different kinds of things, and I think for like training and learning educationally, the ability to go into a holodeck and have practical experience with all kinds of things,
Yeah.
would kind of change the way we learn, kind of change the way that we do all kinds of things, in work, in pleasure, and all kinds of things we do on our own. You know, personally, what we enjoy doing. You know, having the experience of being able to walk into a room and try different kinds of things, and go to different kinds of places just to get a taste and see if it's something that interests you. And like I think that would change a lot about us as people, to have that readily available to us, to really kind of play around with things and figure out what we want to do in life, and get all kinds of different experiences. But I think there are more Barclays among us than not. I think there's great risk, really, and that's where I get into this whole thing with. I think having one in your house is kind of dangerous. I think it's really easy. It would be really easy to get addicted. The way people get addicted to video games, the way people get addicted to the internet, and all kinds of things. There is no doubt in my mind that people would get hooked on the holodeck. People who tend to be introverted, who struggle in social situations, would probably prefer to be in the holodeck and to create social situations that are comfortable to them.
Yeah.
And I have traits of them myself. I know that there are things that I would, you know, there's things about that I would struggle with. So I know that it would be problematic for a lot of people. I don't know that it would do us a lot of good socially to have that so readily available, where you can just kind of go into the holodeck and create your own social dynamic. And you know, if you're a young kid, if you're 10, 11 years old and you get introduced to that, I think it could cause problems. There's no doubt about that. And I think we need to go further as a species and societally to be able to handle it. I don't know that right now in the 21st century we're ready for it. But in time, I think under the right circumstances, having it under the right circumstances and having the right accessibility to it and being used the right way, I think it could do us a lot of good, in practical ways. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think? Like, what are your concerns with the holodeck? Like,
yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm concerned, like you said, there's a lot of potential for us to become like Lieutenant Barkley, and I think you have a good solution to that. But the way I see the holodeck is it's a tool that I think is, you know, best used like on a starship. Like the way I see it, it's supposed to be a break from, you know, space travel and the kind of the mundane tasks that are like on a starship. I think that's where it's its best, where it's used the best, because I think it's definitely tough on crews. So I think it's perfect for a starship, and you know, they could use it, I don't know, similarly like that. So that's kind of the way I see it. But I definitely agree there's potential just for us to learn, and different applications for the holodeck. But at the same time, it's like you got to walk that fine line between, is this a tool and used well and educational, or going to be too much and unhealthy for us as a society. So I think yeah, it's definitely a fine line for sure.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think of episodes like, you know, obviously the Barkley episodes, Holo Pursuits and TNG, which really kind of tackles the idea of being addicted to the holodeck, which came long before the internet, and and it is as apt now and as important now as it ever was. And episodes like Pathfinder kind of tackles the same kind of stuff, just in a new way, in Voyager with Barkley. And an episode that I'm not overall really big on, that I think really tackles the issue of the holodeck really well, is Fairhaven. I don't like the Fairhaven simulation itself. I think it's stereotypical and silly and not really my thing. But the questions it asks about what Janeway's doing, I think, are really interesting. You know, she the ability to seek romance through the holodeck and to condition yourself to be able to just tweak a person to your expectations and what you want. You know, the way she goes in and, you know, takes his facial hair away and
changes
makes him
his
a
height.
little taller.
Yeah.
Makes him a little taller and delete the wife. Like, to set those kinds of expectations for yourself and to have that kind of baked into your head about how you think about romance and relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but just your relationships with people. That's the kind of stuff that I find troublesome about the holodeck. That what Janeway was doing there, the line she was walking, but it is, I don't think, healthy. But at the same time, I think it works because she's the captain of this ship. She doesn't have the luxury to have a romance with anybody on the ship. You know, they're plugging away, going home. Anybody they run into contact with along the way is likely not going to be around very long. So she's in a lonely spot, and I get why she was doing what she was doing, and I don't get the impression that they make it pretty clear. I think that that's not something that she does. That's not her habit, but she was presented with an attractive guy in her mind and saw an opportunity there and took it. And she fell into it and took advantage of it. But I think that would happen more than just being the captain on a ship where you don't have romantic options available. I think people would be tempted by those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of episodes that came into my mind as negatives for the holodeck.
Because in my mind, that's not real life. That's not reality. That you can't just tweak a person and stuff like that. So it's you have to walk a fine line between what is real and what is not. So that's would be definitely hard for. I mean, I'm just saying it'd be hard for me probably. I mean, it's definitely. I don't know. Yeah.
It's tempting. There's a temptation to it that I think would be hard to walk away from, as especially as young people, as people have all kinds of circumstances that shape their social lives. That if things don't line up perfectly for you, those kinds of temptations are there, and if they're available to you, I think they'll be really tough to walk away from. And so there's a lot there that would have to be reckoned with. And I'm going to get into why the transporter scares me more in a bit, but I had something else on the tip of my tongue. But like the Fairhaven thing, they even kind of come to terms with it at the end of the episode when Janeway's talking to the doctor and is talking about they were she was on the holodeck with Michael Sullivan, I think his name is, and he fell asleep and he's laying there snoring, and she was talking about I was tempted to with one command make him stop snoring. And the doctor was like, no, you have to let him snore. You can't keep doing it. So I like that the episode tackles that, and it pushes me in a direction that makes me want to not pick the holodeck because of all these things. But ultimately, I think under the right set of circumstances, I think it could do us a lot of good. Like I said, educationally. Although I keep talking myself out of it, I'm going to wind up not picking this by the end of the episode. But I won't do that.
It's coming to the dark side. We have cookies.
I'm on my way. I'm working my way towards. And there's something about too. So if you walk into the holodeck and you go to you want to see the Eiffel Tower. So you start the program and you see the Eiffel Tower in the holodeck. What's the upside and downside to that? Is the ability to walk into the holodeck and see the Eiffel Tower awesome, or is it kind of sad that you're seeing the Eiffel Tower that way, and when you're really there at some point, if you can get there some way, you're kind of robbed of that experience of seeing it for the first time in reality. I don't know. There's all kinds of complicated issues here.
Yeah, and I think it could become kind of idealistic. I don't know. I've been to the Eiffel Tower
Mhm.
and it's beautiful. But there's things about it that um, like there's like a bunch of people trying to sell you stuff, like stuff that's like so it's like definitely a touristy spot. So there's some negatives to it too, but I feel like you wouldn't want to put that in the program, So I feel like it's I don't know, you could get away from real, I guess. And like you said,
Yeah, yeah,
it'd be not doing it justice if you were actually there in person.
right. And I think that would happen a lot because I
Yeah.
don't think you can in a holodeck you can't program for unexpected variables. Everything has to be scripted. You would
Mhm.
imagine, right? Like
Yeah.
everything about it has to be defined. So the unexpected, the chance encounters, everything that comes along with it. Yeah, robbed of the real experience. Adam
Yeah.
says that's exactly
Yeah.
right. So yeah, there's definite drawbacks to it, and that's where the transporter. If you had these things both at the same time, it would all work out because
Yeah.
you
That's
could
why
go
we
to the
need
holodeck
both.
version, or you could get in the transporter and just beam to the Eiffel Tower and see the real
Yeah.
thing. Like ideally, you have them both.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'm trying to think here. Um, as far as the transporter goes, I think the biggest issue, like I said, it's certainly the safety, and I'm thinking of episodes like Tuvix, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the enemy within. Uh, I'm thinking of Realm of Fear, which isn't quite in the same way. That's
Yeah.
different, but uh, Strange New World from Enterprise, where the guy gets beamed up and it's like in a storm, and he's got branches and rocks all embedded in him
Yeah.
because he couldn't sort it out. Uh, it's those things scare the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I don't want to become Tuvix. Um, so it's truly for me a matter of safety. Like it's just I would have to be convinced that it's a 99.9999% chance that there is nothing going to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's got to be flying on an airplane where it's incredibly safe statistically. I need that to be shown to me before I do it. Uh, Now, the way you framed it earlier with using it for cargo, which is kind of the way Enterprise used it.
Yeah.
That's how they framed it at the beginning of Enterprise, that this is used for cargo, not people. Uh, that would be great. I would love to have a transporter that would, like we were saying, you order something on Amazon and it beams to your desk, and I don't have to pay shipping.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And I'd probably rather have just that if it was just that than the
Hmm.
holodeck. Uh, but the transporter as we typically see it, where people are beaming from here to there and all, if it's as safe as Star Trek portrays it to be, then I'm 100% on board. But
Yeah.
I think practically it would take a long. I foresee it not being an instant thing. Oh yeah, it works. It's gonna have its issues and its
Yeah.
kinks, and there are gonna be accidents, and uh, I don't want to be one of those people that has the accident.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's like some negatives. Like I mean people at first when they like you said, the airplanes were, coming around it, they were, scared to fly. But now it's such a regular thing that it just becomes part of our lives. But definitely it would um take some developmental years for sure.
right.
And I don't and I think they would take that seriously because they wouldn't do that if it wasn't safe. So but yeah, I think that's the only thing that's kind of hanging up, kind of the transporter being such a, kind of the majority pick for everybody is the safety issue. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I totally agree with that. But the real answer to this is both. Um,
Yes.
I really feel that way.
Yes.
Like there are real merits to both,
Mhm.
and I think in the right set of circumstances, used the right way, um, I think both of these could be major game changers for us societally. And Star Trek kind of shows that. And I like that Star Trek doesn't shy away from the negatives of both these things. Realm of Fear explores Barclay's fear of transporting. And I think he's perfectly, they portray him as a neurotic, crazy person.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
fits the
I think
character.
they go a little far. Yeah, with some things. But I like that they tackle that and that they show that people are afraid of it. And just like Dr. McCoy. And in the holodeck, they show the other side of it. They show the dark side of it with Barclay being addicted to it and some of the temptations that it holds. So it doesn't sugarcoat both these things. For the most part, the people that we see in the show kind of have it down and use them for the right things and have a good handle on both these technologies. But I hope that before the 23rd, 24th century, we have both of these things. I don't know how realistic that is. I don't think the transporter is something that science, I'm certainly not a scientist, but every documentary I've ever watched about the science of Star Trek kind of says that the transporter is not likely to be something that we ever really have. But the holodeck, we seem to get closer and closer all the time with different, types of virtual reality and VR video gaming and all kinds of new stuff that seems to be on the horizon that kind of knocks on the door of a holodeck. So, I think, in our lifetimes, we might see something that kind of resembles a holodeck. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on the horizon. So I hope we're ready for it. I hope it's, like I said, not something that we all have in the house necessarily, but something that we can go to and experience and play around with. But I hope that we are prepared for the temptations that it holds. So yeah. So that was really tough for me. I'm going to stick with the holodeck under the right caveats, but you're very convincing, and I could be easily swayed towards the transporter under the right set of circumstances. And like I said, I want both. But we did have a pretty large
Twitter response
to this. We had all kinds of feedback. And it was, I would say it's probably 70-30 holodeck, and quite a few of the responses kind of went where we went with the transporter, people kind of feeling unsafe about it. But there were certainly people who saw it as an opportunity to move from place to place quickly and travel and see things that they're not otherwise going to be able to see. So the transporter had a pretty substantial base of support. I'm trying to get to my answers here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing transporter way more fun from Christopher Moach. Nazar says holodeck. Think of the filth that goes on in there. So I'm not sure if he's saying that as a positive or a negative. But he voted for the holodeck. Heather Ray, who we love, really fun follow on Twitter, said the transporter. Our buddy Rob says that the holodeck would be so much fun, but so much more fun, but the transporter would probably be more practical and useful.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's definitely the more practical pick for sure.
Yeah, right in line with you there. Yeah. I think that's kind of where you were coming from. But as a whole, yeah, I mean, it's pretty weighed towards the holodeck. I'd say it's somewhere between 60-40, 70-30 at this point. Captain Revo says holodeck unlimited entertainment choices that he can always recreate anywhere. He can always recreate anywhere he fancied going.
Yeah.
Wanted to get
super versatile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He would want to live inside of a holodeck forever. Johnny caffeine. Which is the problem.
Yeah, that's the dangers of.
That's the danger. That's his answer, and that's what he's saying. So therein lies the temptation and the issue.
What if this life is the holodeck?
It could very well be. Could be sitting
Let's
on.
go all conspiracy theorists on everybody.
Yes.
This is just a simulation, man.
All it's like ship in a bottle.
Yeah.
We're the holograms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Ian says holodeck, no question. He would never want to use a transporter, which is kind of where I come from.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people like that for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, like right. One of the next answers is Rick Palmer saying holodeck. I'm worried the transporter will kill me and create a replica.
Yeah.
Which I think is basically what it does. I think that kind of they say that, like the people who came up with the idea of a transporter. That's kind of what it is. It's taking you apart and putting you back together somewhere else. You're not the same person. You're not the same flesh and blood anymore.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know the metaphysics of all this.
Yeah.
But I don't pretend to. But yeah, I mean, we definitely appreciate the wide variety of Twitter responses that we got, and it was all kinds of thoughts. But I didn't put it in a poll, which I was kicking myself for. I didn't like frame it in a poll that we could actually get like a statistical response. But there's no question that Holodeck won on in terms of the responses that we got. But it was closer than I anticipated it being. I thought it was going to be more heavily weighted towards the holodeck because of all the temptations that are there.
Yeah.
But it was closer. There were quite a few people who went transporter. So yeah.
Yep.
Any last things you want to throw in there on this? Any closing ideas?
Yeah, I'll just say that it's awesome to see. This is just kind of general thoughts about technology in general, but it's just cool to see, us as a society pushing the limits of technology and bringing Star Trek technology to life. I think that's awesome that we are progressing towards that, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that. It's just cool. I love those stories that when I hear that, Star Trek or sci-fi, it inspired this and this, and it's just cool to see that that happened. So definitely a big fan of that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. Yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't think.
Yeah.
I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. But yeah. I think this is an interesting topic. These kinds of debates, like looks at technologies that Star Trek presents, and how they. There are other forms of technology that I'd like to dive into, and maybe we compare, maybe we don't, maybe we just take a technology and look at it and think about the positives and negatives and what it could do for us. Or we can do the comparison again. We're open to anything.
But if you guys have ideas, definitely let us know down in the comments or on Twitter, obviously, for future kind of deep dives into Star Trek technology that we're gonna hopefully cover. Did you watch any or listen to any new Star Trek content?
I did. I listened to what did I listen to? I listened to a couple episodes of Shore Leave, which is a podcast it's from the Tricorder Transmissions. It's the same network that does Trek Ranks, but it's a podcast that's specifically about Star Trek conventions and pretty specifically about Star Trek Las Vegas. And Heather from Twitter and Jeff, who is the co-host on Trek Ranks, do it. And it was like their sum up of having all the people that went to STLV or a handful of them who participate in their network and are on their shows. Kind of just talking about their experience, things they did, things they liked, things they didn't. And I like to live vicariously through them. I'd love to go to that. Someday I want to go. And yeah, I love hearing about everything that went on, all the all the fun things that people got to do, different events that they have there, different things that just the people who go kind of throw together themselves, all kinds of cool stuff. And it makes me really want to go when I listen to these things. So they were really fun, fun listens. But again, kind of like last week, this is kind of the heat of fantasy football season and draft season. I had a draft a couple days ago. I have a draft later today in a couple hours. I have another one next week. So a lot of my podcast and YouTube stuff that I'm kind of consuming lately is more geared that way, at least for the next week or two. But I do sneak in a few Trek things here and there through the week. And trying to think, I think I listened to the Warp 5 within this week since the last time we did this. I listened to their commentary for Dead Stop as well.
Oh yeah, I listened to that one this week too. That was really good.
Yeah, it was good. I like their commentary tracks actually. I typically don't watch them as commentary tracks. Like I don't watch the episode along with it. I kind of just listen. But I tend to enjoy those. I like the deep dives into a given episode or a specific one.
Yeah. So. I listened to Warp 5 too because it was Dead Stop was super fresh for me because I just watched it, so it was really good to hear their commentary on it. And so, also I got something here in real life that I got. So a special Trek Live crew member, who are laying nameless right now, but will make an appearance on the show. On Trek Live later on. You guys stay tuned for that. It's just cool. All the classic episodes in like a super cool book, and I just love the kind of the artwork and stuff on it. So, but I found it interesting. Cool. It's like it's all the classic episodes except for the cage. I was like, wait, what? You know, it's just funny to me that the cage wasn't there. So it said all the classic episodes. And I was like, but it's not all the classic.
Except the original classic episode.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Pretty cool.
I just found that really funny.
Yeah. Neat. Very cool. Yeah. So we have some good stuff in store for the next few weeks. We are a month away from Discovery, which is really exciting. We're under a month now.
Yeah.
We kind of already we threw it out there that we have a Voyager deep dive coming in the next few weeks. As I finish that, we'll be doing that, and we're looking at a special guest in the next couple of weeks too. So all kinds of good stuff coming. Really looking forward to it, and it's an exciting time to be a Star Trek fan. I really think we're at like peak levels of excitement, at least for me, right now with Discovery on the way, new stuff coming. So, and doing this has me pumped. You know, this really does like up the ante for me. It makes me even more excited for Discovery and just more excited to watch Star Trek and have people to talk about it with, and whether it's just you, Dan, or people in the chat, whoever's here. You know, it's having other people to share it with and have. My excitement does have no peak. You have no idea. Just wait until we're at September 20th, September 22nd. You're not even gonna recognize me. I'm gonna be so excited. So all kinds of good stuff coming. I'm really pumped. I'm really pumped to share it with you guys and have people to talk about it with, like I said. So
it's Rob, it's good to hear that you're on holiday.
Yes.
I hope you had a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so next week we're going to be talking about Star Trek Into Darkness versus Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So,
sure, there's no controversy in that at all, right?
Yeah, no, it's going to be
any strong opinions.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a nice, calm episode. You know, it's going to be great.
Star Trek Into Darkness just doesn't inspire any interesting conversation or
and there's definitely everybody loves it, and
no issues at all. It's everybody's favorite. So looking forward to that. We're gonna be looking at the comparison of the two. A lot of people kind of like to cite Into Darkness as like a Wrath of Khan rehash, and I kind of want to explore how true or not true that is, and look at some of the similarities and the differences, and why maybe one works better than the other. Not saying which one works better than the other. Although if you know me, you know what my opinion is there. But yeah, it should be interesting. We haven't really dove into Darkness much on this show. It's come up here and there, and we tend to be like, oh, we're going to save that. We're not going to dive into that. So this will be our time to actually talk about, what we think of Into Darkness, instead of just kind of alluding to it and saying, oh, we'll save that. So episode 22 will be the Into Darkness show.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to Spin about Into Darkness. I haven't talked about it in a while. Beyond kind of covered up
Beyond
some Into Darkness stuff. There was a period there where Into Darkness was like obviously the newest movie, and it was like really on people's minds, and it was a major talking point for a lot of people. But since Beyond came and kind of took a different road, I guess. Into Darkness has kind of receded back a little bit, and you don't hear quite as much about it lately. So looking forward to diving back into it and maybe seeing how we feel about it a few years later, and having another movie since that was out. Where it's not the most recent thing. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yep.
No? Anything else we want to throw in before we wrap it up? Is there going to be Star Trek Online this weekend?
There will be tomorrow morning. There will be
Cool.
Same as last week.
I'll be there.
Yeah, so definitely tune in for that. Got a new ship. So we're gonna taking that out for a spin. I'll show you guys what I equipped to it. So it should be a good time.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Yeah. So guys, you guys know that the discussion doesn't have to stop here. Definitely come over to Twitter. Keep the conversation going. We had a great response this week. I think it was kind of really awesome to see that big of a response on this type of topic. So hopefully kind of keep that going. On to next week's topic. Next week for us in the States is a holiday weekend, so the scheduling is going to be a little bit different. But we'll definitely let you guys know what day, what time, so you guys can be there. We'll let you know ahead of time so you guys can make arrangements. And so, yep.
Keep an eye on Twitter. We'll have that out as soon as possible. We'll try to get that out because we do have we have a couple of people who watch from the UK, but I think mostly it's United States people who come in and out. So we want to give people time to know when we're going to be on in case they want to plan their holiday weekend around us. Which we'd love to hear if you do.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled. We'll have that out soon. Cool.
Yep. If you guys have any further questions about this topic or next week's topic, definitely hit us up on Twitter. But for now, I am going to beam out, and Bill's going to be going for a session on the holodeck. So
it's true.
Well, see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
See ya. Thanks for coming.